What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to another Warframe video. Today, we're talking about the newest frame, Caliban. There will be minor story spoilers today. I won't be talking about anything specific, but I will be talking to you about what happens after the new war quest. So, it's basically about where you farm Caliban from. But today we'll be going over his abilities, his builds, how I feel like he is in the game, and like what he currently does after the first day. This is a day one guide for Caliban. He just came out like 12 hours ago, and we've got him all forming up and all that. So we're gonna go over his abilities, and yeah, we'll show you how he works in game and in mission and all that. So, for a very brief spoiler right now, here's where you farm Caliban. It will be the only spoilers in the video. Okay, once you beat the new war, spoiler alert for the next 10 seconds. There are reskinned bounties on Fortuna and on the plains that are available to you. The loot in those bounties is going to rotate to Caliban parts, and it's like the neuroptics, the chassis, and the systems. The blueprint for Caliban comes from the market. Alright, spoiler is over. So, alright, let's go over Caliban's abilities and what he does. Also, I will be streaming live on Twitch later, so if you want to come check out working on stuff, stop by the channel. So, his passive is Adaptation. It gives you 50% damage resistance to the type of damage you are currently taking, and it works on allies as well. It does stack with Adaptation, and it can make you pretty tanky, especially if you're going for like a tank build, maybe with like shield regen and some like health regen and stuff like that. It can be okay. It's a good passive, I'd say, but the current meta of the game is basically shield gating, and Adaptation is kind of like not as important when you have shield gating that can easily refresh with like Augur Secrets and all that kind of stuff. But a decent enough passive. Caliban's third ability does summon sentient minions to help him out, and that passive will increase the damage reduction to the sentients as well. So that's pretty good. Now here's something that is not good. Razor Gyre. This is probably the worst ability in the entire game, and here's why. What his first ability does is turn you into a spinning tornado. It deals some damage, as you can see with this build, 885. It has 500 at base. It gives you built-in healing, and it has a damage increase per second where the impact damage goes up. This ability is really, really bad because you know what? It's worse than using weapons, and you can't use weapons while you're in it. So here we are using this. You cannot pick up energy orbs while in it, probably a bug. And if you want to, you can hold down the left click or whatever your fire button is. It will make you spin faster. You're getting a damage increase per second. If you find an enemy you want to home in on, if we were to summon an enemy, we could do that. We could dash to the enemy. This ability is really, really bad. Let's actually summon in a butcher or two so we can show how this is on like the weakest enemies in the game, basically. So we're going to unsummon heavy gunners. I'm going to summon a level, let's do a level 50 butcher. And this is a build with some power strength, not a full power strength build. We're going to go over the build in a little bit here, but here's Razor Gyre on this level 50 butcher. Alright, so after, about 5 seconds of hitting him, it's not going to kill him. And just for reference, that's a Zorus, modded for a heavy attack throw build, and one hit from it would probably kill that guy. So it's a really terrible ability. Let's just show it dashing to the enemy as well, and we'll go over his second ability, which is actually probably his best ability. So just to show the dashing part of Razor Gyre, so I'm going to speed up, and let's target that guy. You push the 1 key again. It's not a very good ability. So would not recommend ever using that. His 4 actually isn't very good either. Oh, apparently he can fly. His 4 is not very good either, so you're going to either decide to subsume off his 1 or his 4. I think we were bugged out there for a second. Subsume off his 1 or his 4 because they're both really not good, unfortunately. This can cause some slash procs, but I feel like there might be something I'm missing here. If you know the secret to Razor Gyre being good, let me know in the comments down below because I could not find it, and it's just terrible. Like it's really the worst ability in the game, as it's basically worse than Aqua Blades from a Yareli, because with Yareli's Aqua Blades you can still fire your gun, and it's worse than Sandstorm from Inaros, because I believe Sandstorm Inaros is actually invincible in the Sandstorm. You're not invincible in the spinning of this, so terrible ability. Let's move past that to Sentient Wrath. Like I said, this is probably his best ability, and this is actually his Helminth Subsume ability. So you could take this from Caliban and put it on other frames. And it is not nerfed at all in the Helminth version. So this is going to be a very, very good Helminth ability going forward. We're going to show what it does here. And it scales with basically every stat. So the range of this wave area, like this shockwave, goes up with range. The maximum amount of targets goes up as well. It has a damage vulnerability and a stun. So the stun goes up with duration, and damage vulnerability increases with power strength. Also, it does some damage as well, 1700 with this build. So let's just show how this works. This is not with a ton of range. We'll show the build I'm going to be suggesting here in a little bit. So you press the second ability, you shoot a wave of energy that stuns the enemies, gives them lifted status. Unfortunately, the lifted status does not work with a Saxum mod set. It just puts it on cooldown right away, unfortunately. And let's just show how this works in practice here. Knocks them into the air, very easy to kill at that point. And yeah, they can't fight back, they can increase damage because of the second ability vulnerability, the Sentient Wrath. And while if you are to use Razor Gyre, you can actually press the second ability to use that shockwave while you're spinning around. So that's why I'm thinking there might be something with Razor Gyre I'm not understanding, because it's so terrible. But you can cast the 2 while you're in there. So yeah, really good skill there with Sentient Wrath. Would highly recommend if you get a second Caliban, substituting this into somebody. Really good. I do highly recommend this ability. Then we'll go over the Sentient Minions, the Lethal Progeny. So this is going to be scaling with duration and strength. Range does not affect them at all. So this has actually been buffed since the pre-release information we received. Before Caliban was released, these guys were going to restore your shield when you are not in combat. The not in combat part has been removed. Now these guys are permanently restoring your shield as long as they're on the field, and you can summon 3 of them at a time. While they are active, they are going to chase after enemies and attack them. And as you can see, my shield is going up here. I can have up to 3 sentients out at the same time, giving me increased shield regen. Now, here's the problem. The AI of these guys is still really bad. Any summoned AI in this game just has no chance. It's actually so bad that if you are to use your Sentient Wrath to stun the enemies, the Sentients cannot even hit those enemies a lot of the time because their AI is just so terrible. So, let's stun them with Sentient Wrath, and you'll see they probably will not get hit by these spin attacks. So that probably needs to get fixed. That's some anti-synergy right there. But once they leave the Sentient Wrath, they will be able to get slapped by the Sentients. And the power strength that's on your build will influence what level they spawn into the mission at. And it will also influence their damage multiplier, health multiplier. So strength is a really important stat in Caliban. Duration's a pretty important stat in Caliban. Range is pretty okay for increasing the range of Sentient Wrath. And also his 4, which we'll go over, which, me personally, I focused on the 2 and the 3. The Lethal Progeny are mostly for absorbing aggro, as their AI for attacking is pretty bad. And then Sentient Wrath is really good for CCing enemies and making them take increased damage. Just make it really easy to kill them, pretty much. That's the 2 abilities I really focus on. But we'll go over the 4th ability, Fusion Strike, which was it was the most important ability, in my opinion, before he was released. And it's come out, and it's a banned ability, in my opinion. So it has some niche uses, though, so we'll go over it. And I'll show some synergies and the build I'm going to recommend to you. So, as far as this, it's basically a Convetrix shotgun. You fire off some beams in 2 directions. When they converge into the middle, an explosion will be created. And once that explosion has been created, there is a small area that will be coming, that comes out that scales with range. As you can see very briefly, there's like an energy wave on the ground. That is an area of armor removal. And if an enemy gets pulled into there, they will get their armor removed. And it goes up to, at 200% strength, it will be 100% armor removal. So let's get some corrupted gunners in here and let's show what I'm talking about here. Now we're going to pause them just to show how this works. And we'll put them at level 50 because the damage of the skill is not really impressive. So this will be a good way to show it. So with 200% strength, 100% armor removal, we're running the Growing Power Augment mod. Or not Augment mod, the Growing Power Aura mod, which will give us increased power strength when we cause damage with the weapon. We'll actually go to the build that I wanted to show you guys. It'll work here. I don't know. Okay. So this is the build I'm going to recommend to you guys. We got 189% power strength. The mods aren't maxed out, but you can still make this work without with maxed out mods. And we've got growing power. So 189, we have 94% armor removal. If we proc a status with a weapon, it goes giving us an additional 25%. That will make it 100% armor removal with Fusion Strike. Now some other things you could definitely do is, like, we've gotten power in here. I was just messing around with that. You don't need that. You could definitely go with like Ensnare to pull enemies into your armor removal area. But just to make it easy to tell that it's actually working, I like to go for 100% armor removal. And keep in mind, they did buff this from the pre-release version. This actually does remove shields now. It's pretty much just a worse version of Nyx's Psychic Bolts. And yes, Nyx's Psychic Bolts is not an ultimate attack, it's a second ability. So this is a worse version of Nyx's second ability. So the armor removal only happens if the enemy is hit by the explosion in the middle. If you just, if you just proc up some enemies, okay, here, let's just show what I'm talking about. So we're going to get a proc here, get our growing power, and then hitting that will remove all of their armor. And as you can see, the damage is very, very lacking. It pretty much did no damage, but now they have no armor. we should be able to easily kill them, and then you just realize you have a weapon equipped, and the weapon can kill them. So that's a debuffing skill. It's not a nuke skill at all, like it needed to be to actually be good. So if you're playing like Disruption or something like that, it does work on the Demolist. So for example, fighting a very tanky Corpus Demolist with shields and armor, that's something you could technically do. And then another thing you could do is you could use the second ability, the Sentient Stun, and then you could use this, just, they're all softened up with the damage vulnerability, that increases the damage too. So, the playstyle I'm going to recommend to you for this guy is subsume off the 1. Subsume off the 1 for literally anything else, because the 1 is terrible. And then I'm going to recommend a grouping ability, or a grouping tool. So we have the Proboscis Cernos, which comes from, I think, the Clan Dojo or something like that. This is a tentacle bow that pulls enemies in, has very high status chance. It's perfect for the growing power we're trying to go for. Very easily proccing. Also, since the tentacles pull enemies into one area, we can easily remove all their armor with Fusion Strike. And then we have the Sentient Minions just taking aggro in the background. If we get surrounded, Sentient Wrath goes in all directions, stunning all enemies in all directions, or up to 30 of them with this build. And then Ensnare is just for if you don't want to use the Proboscis Cernos. This will help you pull enemies into your armor removal area. But there's other options too. I tried Breach Surge. Breach Surge is really good. Like I showed earlier, Empower can open some build possibilities. You wouldn't really need to run Growing Power if you're running Empower. But Empower is a little bit annoying just to keep casting. Because remember, since you want to have 3 Sentients on the field, you cannot buff all 3 of the Sentients at once. I really feel like he needs a mini rework, honestly. Like this should summon all Sentients at once for 1 energy cost. The Sentients are not resummonable until their duration expires, which feels really bad. And we're not even talking about the first ability, which should honestly scale with melee mods. It doesn't scale with anything, it seems like. So here's the idea. We're going to use electric weapons or gas weapons, because the enemies will be having all their armor removed and just pulled into one spot. So camping AoE status effects like that are actually pretty decent. Alright, so let's use the Zorus. Everyone's got the Zorus. And we're going to pull them into one area, proc them up, and then throw the Zorus. And we didn't even throw the Zorus there, and they're all dead from 1 shot. That's how good armor removal is on these types of enemies that really depend on their armor to like be really strong. So if you can just like easily proc from something else, the Zorus has a guaranteed electric proc, which can be really, really huge when using... See, the armor removal area was still on the ground there from the previous attack. Remove her armor, and that's the playstyle I'm going to go for. Let's show some Steel Path gameplay here with this playstyle, but not with the Zorus. We're going to be using the Proboscis Cernos. And as far as, is he a good frame? I'm going to go ahead and say, no, Caliban is not a good frame because he has no purpose. What is the purpose of Caliban? What he has available to him, let's just ignore the terrible one. He's got a AoE stun, which can damage debuff, which is really good. Sentient Wrath, his subsume skill is very, very good, and I'd say it's worth getting a second Caliban to potentially open some ideas in the future. So he's got that. Good Sentient Stun. He's got the Sentient Minions, which we said earlier are not good enough AI or good enough damage to even do anything. So they're basically just to be taking aggro for you, let you regen your shield. That's pretty good for shield getting, basically like a mini Protea grenade, or a mini Protea grenade, which gives you shield regen per second. Now keep in mind, this only works for you. It does not work for your teammates. So unlike Protea, you're not really as good of a support. You're more of a selfish frame, kind of like an Inaros, Necros kind of situation. And also, you need to cast an ability 3 times. This dude kind of wants efficiency. So on the build I have, as far as efficiency and energy mods, I have Prime Flow and Streamline. If you just have Prime Flow, your Sentience costs 50 energy per cast. And if you want to cast all 3, that's 150 energy. So you're going to be dropping a big chunk of your energy pool every like 30, 40 seconds to resummon those Sentients. With Streamline, it goes to 35. That becomes about like 100 energy to get all 3 of your Sentients back out. Not to mention your Fusion Strike, if you're using it to remove armor, that goes down from 100 energy to like 70 energy. Much more manageable. So yeah, if you have him, good for you. If you found a way to actually get the stuff to drop. It's a lot of waiting for the loot tables to rotate to what you want to get him, to be honest. And he just doesn't seem worth it. I'd rather run Necros, honestly. I did try a summoner build with Theorem Infection and like the Kit Gun Arcanes that give them like toxin damage and stuff like that. And the fact that their melee attacks whiff so much made that feel like a complete waste of my time. Not to mention, Kit Guns can be good, but they're no Kuvazar. I did a run of Kuva Survival, or not Kuva, Steel Path Survival with like the Kuvazar on Caliban. And you know, it was just pretty standard stuff that every frame can do. My sentients were like distracting enemies while I flew around and just Zard everything. I could remove enemy armor, not like the Zard needed that. And as far as like elementals, like I said, you could go with, oh, you know what really does suck? His 4 has line of sight, so his 4 is just worse than the Kuvazar. What you could do is you could go for like viral, remove all the enemy armor, and then just viral proc them and kill them. But gas honestly works great because they're going to be stunned if you're using the Proboscis Cernos, and it just works out really good if they have no armor. Since one of the biggest problems with gas damage is enemies having armor, and you know he literally removes armor. That's what his main niche is. I'd say he's not worth really farming for, but then again, we're going to be talking about the post-game content for the new war, and you might be like, well, there's nothing else to do besides farm Caliban, so go have fun farming Caliban. The quest was great. We'll talk about it, though. Let's show some non-Steel Path gameplay. He can handle himself here, you know. You can make any frame do this pretty much, but keep in mind, I'm not using any Decaying Dragon Key or Augur Mod Cheese in this. All that shield regen is from my sentient minions, as long as I remember to cast them. So if you think this is impressive, go for it, man. A lot of people think he looks stupid. I think that he needs some buffs for sure. Let's talk about what I would buff on Caliban to make him potentially a more enticing option. So we're gonna have some bounty gameplay here, so not really high levels, and there might be some spoilers in Twitch chat, so be careful if you're looking at that. I'd say Razor Geyer needs some synergy with his 2. I thought that it was supposed to have synergy with his 2, but I've not been able to discover that yet. I've had them stunned by the 2, no guaranteed slash procs. When I do get a slash proc, it's about 500 damage, which is pretty pitiful since my 100 munitions weapon just do so much more damage. So that needs to get buffed, and you need to be able to pick up energy orbs while you're in Razor Geyer too. Maybe even while your sentients are out and you use Razor Geyer, they also immediately start spinning when you are using Razor Geyer. So there's lots of things they could do for the first ability, but it needs something. It needs more than just one thing too. Like, it is a terrible ability. As far as Sentient Wrath, I have no problems with Sentient Wrath at all. I think Sentient Wrath is a very good skill, and I'm happy that's a subsume and it's not nerfed at all. So keep an eye out for Sentient Wrath subsume videos potentially coming in the future. By the way, make sure you guys like the video. I know I didn't say that earlier. Please make sure you like the video and leave a comment to the algorithm. Mention it to more people because, you know, I really appreciate that kind of stuff, and I'm trying to get the videos out there so the channel can keep growing. So, but as far as the sentient minions, they need to be recastable. It's very annoying to have to just watch the timer for your sentient go down to 0 before you can recast it. Not to mention, you can't keep track of, like, let's say I cast one sentient. That's a 30-second timer. The second one after that, I cast him 10 seconds later. I cannot see the timer for all 3 sentients at once. I can only see one timer for the sentient on my UI bar, so that could definitely be changed. I think the sentients need, I don't know how they would make this work, but they need to be able to hit enemies more reliably. When they swing their arm and hit nothing, that looks really bad. Not to mention their damage is not very good either, so maybe make it where it's a pseudo-exalted, where like a stat stick makes your, like, let's say you have like a high Riven Disposition Jaw Sword, and it makes your sentients do like 300% increased damage, or something like that. They need some more scaling too, because all they are right now is just soaking up aggro. And they do a very good job at soaking up aggro. These sentients do not die very often unless their duration runs out, or if they run to another fire bubble. If they run to another fire bubble, they die instantly. So, yeah, they could definitely use just a little bit of AI tweak, maybe a little bit more damage, but their aggro drawing capabilities are fine. And his 4 definitely, we didn't really talk about the range of the 4 too much. The fact that it's line of sight already is pretty much a nail in the coffin as far as I'm concerned, but if we really wanted to like waste our time modding for it, I'd say it needs a base radius increase. The base radius on his 4, just for reference, is 8 meters, which is smaller than a Kuva Brahma shot, just saying. And with max range, it's not really looking too hot anyway. We're talking like, let me just put every range mod in here and see how high the range is. It's not looking too hot though. Not to mention, you need 200% strength to get full armor removal, which is pretty much impossible to do with overextended on your build unless you really go into it. So with every range mod in the game, 280% range. There might be a new range mod I haven't actually put on here, but 280 range, you're looking at a 22 meter radius. Keep in mind, that animation, this is all with natural talent. His cast speeds are terrible without natural talent. I'd say if you don't run natural talent on him, you are a crazy person. Let's just show how his abilities are cast without natural talent real quick. I mean, this is like standard gameplay right here. You know, the weapons are doing most of the work. You're not killing enemies with his abilities, that's for sure. You might kill some like fodder enemies with this 4, but you need to have good weapons if you're playing Caliban, to be honest. So let's just show his cast speeds without natural talent. So this will be great. Okay, so we got natural talent on the first on this build right here. So let's just show how fast you can cast Sentient Wrath and the Sentient Summon. So that's pretty good. So you can summon those guys really fast with natural talent. And then the 4 still feels pretty slow, honestly, but at least we can like cast it back to back pretty quickly. And now we're going to take off natural talent. You can behold the horror of summoning 3 sentients with really slow cast speed. Sentient Wrath. You're in the air for a good extra second there. We gotta wait for these guys to despawn. That felt like it had natural talent on it. We're gonna leave the simulacrum and then spawn back in because I feel like it might be a bug right now where it's taking natural talent when it's not supposed to. But guys, I'd say honestly, it is a staple mod on him, natural talent. If you don't want to run natural talent, like you feel like you can stomach it, you have a little bit more extra room for some range or strength in that slot, or maybe even duration. Duration is pretty important for his sentient summons. Okay. Yeah, your arm is up for much longer when you are using natural or not using natural talent. And let's show the 4th. Dude, you are just gonna die if you use the 4th ability with no natural talent. So I would highly recommend it, just comparatively. You can also cast it while midair, which is kind of cool. But yeah, you need that mod, guys. If you don't have it already, just go buy it or just farm it, whatever. So I don't know. I feel like he's better than Urelli, but he's nowhere near Sevagoth level. I'd say he's more around like a little bit underneath Lavos level, where Lavos was released to a pretty lukewarm response. But Lavos is fine. You know, Lavos is not top tier, but Lavos is fine. He's worse than Lavos. It definitely needs some damage buffs. His abilities, like I said, you're not killing any enemies with these abilities. Even like a level 50 Butcher is not going to really die to your 4. So that needs some changes. I guess you could just say you're using it for armor removal, which is fine, I guess. But yeah, only if the enemy are in an explosion area, that's when they actually get damage or their armor removed. If you just hit them with a laser on the side, it does not remove their armor. So keep that in mind. See, like, let's try to show what I'm talking about. So see, she's in the area actually, but yeah, that's a first impressions video. Like I'm saying, if we find a use for Razor Geyer, sure. I mean, I feel like I'm missing something just because it's so bad. But either way, guys, I'll see you. I'm going to record another video right after this. We're doing Ribbon Dispo changes. We're going to go over all the new weapons, Hero Prime, all that stuff. So keep an eye out on the channel. Make sure you're subbed and all that so you can see when these videos go out. And I'll see you later on the live stream channel on Twitch as well. Thank you so much for all the support, guys. And take it easy. Have fun. Peace.